back. Welcome to our Go Live. And I'm here with Amanda. Before we start, I want to make sure I thank all of our members. We sure appreciate you, and you help us be able to keep doing all these Go Lives and bringing you guys more awesome content. And I also want to thank everybody who's watching, whether you're watching quietly, asking questions, or sharing your own personal stories. We really do love hearing all of that and that you guys are being part of this. So a lot of you guys ask about donkeys and can my donkey be with cows, or can they be with the dogs, or can I ever trust them with my dogs? What about those chickens? Or I have a goat. And we have Amanda here who, guys, she has 3 wild donkeys that I either trained and gentled or just gentled. And she's rocking it with all of them. So I thought it would be fun to have Amanda on because every time I go over there, I'm always impressed with what I see or the different updates that you send me. It's like, wow, check you out. Now, Amanda, this is her first time having wild donkeys. I think you bought Valhalla and Grace near a year ago.
Yeah, it's been over a year now.
Yeah. So, and before that, you didn't have any wild donkeys or donkeys at all, right?
I had one instance with a really mean, nasty mini donkey that I was like, yeah, no donkeys, thank you. And then I got the girls.
And you found out they're not all mean.
No.
So that's what we're going to talk about. This isn't a do this and it will always work, guys. Every donkey is individual. And guys, we just brought home 20 new wild donkeys, and I can tell you what, they're all individual. Some of them are like self-taming, and you wonder, how did you ever survive being wild? And then other ones are like sitting back and assessing and not sure. So every situation is different, and that's not even just the donkeys, but the dogs too. And Amanda will talk more about that. So as always, feel free to ask questions, guys. We love having your questions, your comments, your stories come up on this. It's meant to be a conversation and not just like a lecture. But it's gonna be more what Amanda does to how she can do this to be successful. So you take it away.
So at our crazy place, we have 10 dogs, from a 10-pound Chihuahua to a 150-pound Caucasian overchoker. It's a Russian guardian dog. And when we brought the girls home, we put a pen where they could be introduced quietly around everybody. They could see the horses, see the donkeys, see the goats, and the chickens. And we just kind of introduce them slowly that way and just give it time.
So is this the regular donkey pen, or is it?
It's a makeshift pen that we put horse panels up.
Mm-hmm.
They call them horse panels here. We call them cattle panels somewhere else. The horse panels up, and you always want to have their food and water away. You don't want them to be too nervous to walk up to the other animals or close to them to drink or eat. You don't ever want them to go without. And then just let them intermingle. And my livestock guardian dogs are really amazing. They'll go and lay against the fence and put their chins on the wire and just watch. That way the donkeys can move around. This thing's not going to attack me. This thing's not going to eat me. This is what I did with the girls.
So this is separate than their normal donkey pen?
Yes.
So it was like a separate training pen that you brought them to?
Yeah. Okay. And it's just like a temporary where they could meet everybody, and it's a chill, quiet, like nobody has territory on it. The horse isn't saying that was my pen, or
Could the dogs go into the pen with the donkeys at this time?
I don't recommend letting anything go in there, even chickens. Donkeys love to chase chickens. We learned that one. It was quite interesting. Valhalla has a vendetta against chickens. Chickens are an amazing desensitizer. Unfortunately, Valhalla did kill one chicken, but after that, we firmed up our no chasing chickens, no pestering chickens, and now she just eyes them really nasty as they flutter through the pen or they jump off the fences towards the donkeys. And they're kind of like a great desensitizer that runs away really fast. And it can go in and out of the pens. And
so you made a rule of no chasing the chickens. So how do you stop them from chasing the chickens when that comes about?
We make no a very firm word. No is very firm, and I clap. It's loud, disrupts the whole atmosphere, and then no is the follow through. And I've gone in there, and I happened on a magical day to be able to catch Valhalla chasing a chicken, and I caught her with the end of my rake and popped her butt. No! And she kind of soured and walked away, and it didn't, she never did it again, but it wasn't like a mean pop. It was the end of my, she was running past me, and I was able to get her. So it's a little more difficult with the chickens to teach the no, but it happens pretty quick. If you're in there cleaning, the chickens like to go through the poop or go around and get into everything, and that had to be our first real, you can't chase chickens. And my neighbors heard me and thought I was crazy until they came over and, oh, you got donkeys. I'm not just yelling, stop chasing the chickens, you know, at the kids.
Yeah. So now the chickens, hopefully they're staying outside of the pen. The dogs are staying outside of the pen. And then they're all just seeing each other from their perspective sides.
And then as they get used to nobody's going to get me, we actually will put the hay along the fence line, and they start eating, and they just naturally start not fearing them because their face is down there. And they pick it up pretty quick that this isn't going to eat me. This isn't dangerous. It's a controlled environment. I wouldn't recommend where like goats can reach through and grab any of the hay, because I've seen bad things happen to goats that stick their heads in other animals' pens.
I think that's something to really point out. So we do something similar. We have a pasture here. It's being used for jacks, but it actually is outside of this window. So before, it was part of the dry lot. So the donkeys would go over there, and then we would bring Calamity in the backyard, throw the ball for her, and it's a big ball, so it can't go through the fence. And at first, when the wild donkeys would get introduced into that area and they would see the Calamity, they would come running and stomping like they were gonna end her. But there's a fence there. Everybody's safe, right? But then after a while, you could throw the ball so it would land right, still the fence dividing them, but right next to the donks. And Calamity would come running, just barreling down there to get her ball, and they don't care anymore.
And that's what we did with Ox. He was just barely gentled, and we brought him home. We put him in our round pen, and we made sure no dogs could get inside the round pen. It was all wired off. And we would bring the dogs over and sit and let them wrestle and let them play. And Ox would stomp and have his big feelings. And we kind of ignored him for the first week because he was just showing his feelings. And after that, he just really quieted down and said, hey, she's petting them. They're playing. They're running around. They're not interested in any way. And that was a really big thing for them to see that nothing happens. They watch a lot.
They do watch.
Yeah.
So after they're getting used to each other with the fence between them, what do you do next?
I take out my laziest, most uninterested, that would be my livestock guardian dogs, and we go for a walk, and they kind of meander. Oh, look, she's got something else out. They kind of meander along, but they keep their distance because they were worked with cattle. And eventually the donkey stops being watchy and stops worrying so much about the dog around them, but I always keep a flag stick to move the dogs away, or I teach the dogs when I point away, they definitely give more space. And so a lot of it is having a well-trained dog, a dog that listens well. I wouldn't take my senior blind, deaf, can't figure anything out 12-pound Jack Russell out there. But definitely, or a border collie. We have a little crazy border collie that you can't have her involved in the situation.
Sure.
But you just take them for a walk, and eventually they give up on the idea. And like Valhalla and Grace have been okay with dogs for over a year now, but we still are working on when the dogs trail behind. When they're farther back behind, it still really bothers Valhalla. Grace doesn't care. Grace is very brave, and they run into her sometimes, and that irritates her. But so far, everybody's been pretty good.
So when you start walking the dogs and the donkeys together, the dogs are just kind of running around, and you have the donkeys, they're free, or the donkeys on a halter and lead rope?
They're definitely on a halter and lead rope. And I would do that for quite a while until you can gauge their reaction to all of it. We had an instance, we were walking Grace, and one of our dogs bounced in front of my husband and barked playfully. Grace took it offensively and like an attack, and she struck at the dog. We were able to pop no on the lead rope because she was taking off after the dog, and she went broadside and went between my husband and the dog like they were protecting.
That's interesting.
And that's when I realized I have to be the one to send the dog away and not allow the donkey to send the dog away.
Yes, that's a good
So
point.
I had to be the boss, and she had to follow along. So we worked on that for a while too, because that was a big one. And now, if they start getting stressed, I can tell the dog away, and she's like, "Yeah, Mom said away, so go." And it works. So
I like this. I like how you talked about the dog that you bring is important. So when we first started doing wild donkeys, our old dog Rec was like, I don't know, 13, 14 years old. Like he couldn't even walk up from the bottom of the hill to the top of the house without like collapsing because he was so old. So we didn't bring him down there too much with us because he's too old to move quick if he needed to. And then we had the puppy Calamity, who's 2 now. So I'm starting to trust her a little bit. When she was a little tiny puppy, she's not smart enough to be safe around them, nor does she listen well enough to like introduce it. So you're doing the same type of a thing with making sure that you're matching up the right dog and the donkey to.
And we have a young livestock guardian right now. She's 11 months old, and she has gotten herself in a few pickles, but she's learned really quick. And so she is actually one of the dogs that the donkeys appreciate being around, because she's learned that she can't mess around at all with the donkeys or she gets lined out.
Yes. They're smart. The donkeys are smart.
They are very smart.
Now, when do you start no. Do you ever trust your dogs to be around the donkeys unsupervised?
I don't. Our livestock guardian dogs are different because they've been with cattle and horses. They know when to move, they know when to do things. And the only reason I have been more apt with them is the donkeys. So we had a cougar come in the yard, and the dogs dealt with it. And then the cougar had the neighbor's horses cornered by our property, and the dogs dealt with it. And the donkeys took that in. They thought about it. So when the dogs go off, the donkeys will move behind the dogs. They'll be pretty far back behind them, but they have kind of gained a respect for those livestock dogs. So they don't pay them any mind. If they get too close, they'll stomp a foot. But those are the only ones that we really trust loose with the donkeys, because they've kind of made a pact, I guess.
Yeah, they got an agreement, huh?
They got an agreement, especially after that mountain lion.
So you said sometimes the donkeys will stomp their foot to warn the dogs.
Yeah.
What do you do when that happens?
It's a communication, so I allow it. I don't allow kicking. They raise their foot, they get an and they get moved along. But they can stomp, and they're communicating.
So your livestock dogs, do you let them be outside with the donkeys unsupervised then?
Yeah, but they don't go in the donkey pens. The donkey's pen is like their kennel. It's their space. It's their no zone. They don't have to deal with anyone's drama inside that pen.
A drama-free zone.
Yeah. And so the dogs don't go in there. It's, the chickens will run through to Valhalla's distaste, but I can't stop that.
Now, I think I would say the same thing, that I wouldn't trust the donkeys 100% next to the dogs. Seamus is the donkey that I've had for the longest, and I used to bring him and Rec, whom is no longer with us, but I would walk the two of them together. So I would have Rec in a leash in one hand and Seamus in the other hand, and we would go on 3 to 5 mile hour walk, or 3 to 5 mile long walks. And Seamus got very used to being around the dog. So I don't worry. And I have even one time I put Calamity, she was down at the barn with us, and I put her in the barn with Seamus. Now, I trust Seamus like 90%. He was hangry, and he started chasing her around the barn.
Yeah.
So when your donkey is like maybe always okay with the dog, once they're angry about something, you leave with their friend or it's dinner time, all bets are off.
Yeah, they don't deal with any tomfoolery or silliness, or they're just not dramatic kids.
Right? Right? It's my dinner time. I'll eat you.
Yeah. There was an instance that it will forever crack me up is the goats were pestering. We have two little dwarf goats, Badger and Oreo. And they're kind of just there to keep the dogs entertained. Um, and they were pestering Grace. And I saw her walking down the driveway, and you could tell she was annoyed. They weren't getting the hint. She had stomped, left the situation. And she had been loose with these guys for a while. Everybody intermingled well. They kind of left everybody, each other alone. And I heard Badger squeal, and he come flying around the corner, and him and Oreo went and hid behind me, and Grace was full blown behind them, mouth open, getting ready to strike him.
Oh, no.
And I said no, and I clapped, and I sent her away. The goats didn't bug her anymore, but they were pulling at her tail, bouncing around her, being obnoxious. They're being goats.
Yeah.
And so I'll never forget that, but they don't deal with silliness.
So you've walked us through what you do with the dogs. Did you do the goats before, introduce the goats before or after the dogs?
It was after the dogs because I wanted to see how they reacted because dogs can get away. You can call a dog back and have it come to a safe zone. The goats are kind of goats. They're free reign. They don't listen at all. The more you yell, the worse that they behave. So
Yeah. So what did you do different when you introduced the goats to the donks?
So they met through the fences, and I'd feed them right along the fence, and the goats would, walk back and forth, be there, be present. And then I started actually letting the horses out with the goats. And so the goats were allowed to walk around the donkey pen, walk with the horses, and, they watch a lot. And they picked up that wasn't a big deal. Then we started taking the donkeys for walks with the goats, following behind, being goats, bouncing around, bleating, being obnoxious with bells on. And after that, we just kind of said, it's time. And we let them all loose. And the hardest thing was they were terrified of a pony. The donkeys were terrified of the pony.
They are so funny with what they're afraid of.
And then the pony was all, because the donkeys took off running, and then the pony took off running behind them, and wait, friends. And it was kind of chaos there.
Like, we're not your friends, you're a horse.
And so it was kind of crazy. It was a full yard zoomy after that, and we brought all the dogs in the house and kind of waited, and then they realized the pony wasn't going to eat them. 25-year-old pony is scary,
I think it's entertaining to me how often donkeys are afraid of horses or ponies. I didn't know it beforehand.
I didn't expect the pony to be scary.
Yeah. They're like, you smell different though. Donkeys and horses smell good. Donkeys don't smell good.
They
I love
smell like
donkeys.
goats.
Yeah. Not the same. But horses are often afraid of donkeys, and donkeys are mutually afraid of horses, but they respond differently because a donkey freezes typically, and a horse will go faster.
And we lucked out with our big gelding buck. He was not afraid of the donkeys.
Nice.
And so I was like, oh, hey, let's, intermingle them. And then he started treating them like cows and was herding them around in the pen, trying to move them to the corner he wanted them in. And I was like, that's not going to work. And so I didn't think the pony would be a problem, but the mini horse was scary.
That is so funny. What do you think the biggest lesson you've learned with introducing the donkeys to other critters at your home?
So the biggest thing is that when you have their trust, just let them know that you're going to handle the situation. Like if the dog comes up and it's being annoying and barking, I've hucked several horse turds at a barking dog and made it, we don't bark at the donkeys. No silliness. And they take it in and they watch it. So I guess the biggest lesson is just be there for them, be the leader, and everybody's got to behave.
I like it. And you're always going to be that leader no matter where all the critters are. And they learn to depend upon us once they know they can, that our resume is strong enough for them. What do you think is most important about the first introduction with the critters?
Make it quiet, make it short, and just make it 100% positive. I bring my quietest dog over and I sit, and the donkey can be all upset, all frustrated, don't want this here, don't want this here, and you just pet the dog and let them have their big feelings when they first come home. And then after that, Ox just settled right down. He said that thing's not eating her, it's not eating me. You know, our big livestock guardian dog, he's huge. His foot is bigger than my hand, and he's a monster, and he's pretty intimidating, but he's kind of a marshmallow. He just quietly sits and watches and doesn't react if I don't react.
So Ox is a wild donkey that I gentled, and he was only here for about 2 months. And then we brought him to your house in the summer months. It was hot because I went swimming that same day. We went to the river. Have you had Ox with the dogs outside of a pen yet?
Yeah, we went on our first walk. He actually went, and they followed behind him at the safe distance that they're taught. And he looked behind himself a few times. He froze a couple times, but he realized that they just wandered on past him, and it was a big deal for him. And he relaxed, and he went on to meet the loader running and everything else.
Kinds of adventure. How long did you have him before you brought him on that first walk with the dogs?
I made sure it was several months because he was did not like dogs. He was a jack for however long.
He was 19 years old when he was captured, so yeah,
and he still had that, I'm gonna stomp, I'm gonna bite. He was very serious about it. And so I took my time with that one, because even when they got really close to the pen, he'd still pin his ears and stomp a foot. And so we waited. The biggest thing is I feed them all by the fence, and the dogs run by back and forth being crazy, and he just watched through the fence, watch them go by, watch them know they're crazy. And it was time. He quit reacting. He quit, jerking or flinching when they'd run by. And so we took him for a walk, and it was great.
I like it. I like watching for those signs that the donkey is relaxed as our cue that they're ready for the next level or next step in the process.
And each one's different. Grace can go on rides with the dogs, and she's not worried at all. Valhalla will always look behind her if she's got one trailing her. And, each one's different.
All the donkeys are so different. Valhalla is super nervous, and that's how she's been since when I first adopted her. And then Grace has always been brave. And then Ox brings braveness to a whole new level.
Yes, he does.
It's impressive. I have some questions wrote down that I'm trying to make sure I ask so we cover the stuff we talked about, and I'm reading it. I think we got them all, though. How long would you say the process took then? So I had Ox for 2 months, and then you had him for about 3 or 4 months before you walked him with the dogs?
I'd say if you really put the effort in, the 30 days does a lot. 30 to 60 days is a lot to go to know. He's had time to decompress.
Yeah.
He's had time to take everything in, and then go for it. But each one's different.
And I gotta point that part out. Like, I'm working with 20 new wild donkeys right now, and there's 2 down there that are like self-taming. How did you guys survive being wild? So those 2 are probably going to be ready for that kind of introduction a lot sooner than the one who is like just terrified, right? So every donkey is different, and then each dog. So we got to watch them and all the signs and cues that they tell us if they're ready and if they can emotionally handle more.
And even Valhalla still, if they're too close to the gate, she doesn't want to go through the gate. So I ask the dogs to back up, and then she'll go through the gate. So she's still a nervous Nelly, but they accommodate her well. Like, they give her more space. They don't pressure her as much. She has never gotten run into. As opposed as Grace has been run into before. And they just give Valhalla her space. So.
Isn't that something else? Have you had any big things go wrong that you've learned from the experience of doing this?
The only thing that I had go wrong is when Grace wanted to protect my husband from the dog, and she wanted to move the dog away, and I realized that I needed to make sure that I moved the dog away, and that she didn't have that authority, that she had to look to me for that trust and that I'll take care of it. You let me know that you're uncomfortable and I'll take care of it.
You know, I want to point out that the same thing is true when we're out in the pasture. Let's say there's no other livestock around, just you and your donkeys or horses, mules. So you are out there with your equine. And if one starts bossing around another one, it's our job to make sure they know that we are the leader. There is no one donkey running off another donkey.
It could get really dangerous really fast
Oh
too.
my gosh, yeah. When those feet start flying,
Mhm.
I don't want to be in that line of fire. Oh my God. And it could happen on accident so easily.
Yeah.
So the same thing with the dogs. We show that we're the leader, and then eventually they're going to be okay with depending upon us to be the leader.
Yeah. Because we have 10 of them there, and if anybody gets out of line, it has to be corrected because it causes chaos, and it's the same thing in a herd.
When you let the donkeys out in the yard to be with other animals, dogs, donkeys, chickens, everything, goats, I meant to say goats. How long do you let them be all out together?
They like the summer, the peak of summer, they'd get out after breakfast and they'd get put back in at dinner time.
So now, did you stay out there supervising them the whole time?
I'm outside most of the time, but I bring the dogs in that will, like the old dogs and the young dogs and the stupid dogs that I put them away. And then the girls they all have free reign of the yard together. But I do keep an eye on them every hour. I go out and I assess any situation. But that took a long time. That took a lot of, I had confidence in them.
Yeah.
To solve a lot of problems.
That totally makes sense. One of the houses that we lived at, the entire property was fenced off and our house was in the center of it. And so we would bring Wreck at the time, like a train wreck. That was his name, Wreck. We would bring him outside with us with the donkeys and the mules. And that way we could kind of watch the interaction. And most of the time it was okay. Except for one day we went on a ride. And it was my aunt and then Hannah Banana. I don't know if there's anybody else, but at least the three of us went off riding and my aunt's dog was outside. Well, Penny the mule got really mad that we left with her friend, whatever. And she was in the corner pouncing and she was angry and the dog was in the corner. We had to turn around and like run back because the dog was very much in danger.
Yeah.
So watching that and being, I guess, aware if there's going to be anything that's going to make them angry is going to be helpful.
Yeah. And they kind of do their own thing. The horses do their own thing. Everybody kind of mingles as they pass. But it took a lot of me having confidence in them that they could.
Absolutely.
And I listen. I don't, I listen for it and stuff. But
yeah,
they've done really good. I'm very proud of them and how they can commingle. And the only time that, well, other than Grace chasing the goats up the driveway that one time, they got into a habit of trying to groom the horse's legs. They tried to do it with Grace. And Grace started stomping in place, snorting, and it was just like sudden explosion of the donkey, and the goats are like, "Oh yeah, I remember this," and they left the whole situation. And then Grace went the other way, they went the other way, and that was that. And so they can problem solve a little bit, but sometimes those goats are on their own because I've tried.
Goats are goats. The goats will be goats.
Yes, goats will goat.
Well, for our motivation, I thought it would be cool. I just found out recently that Amanda has wrote her own book. So check out the description. There's a link to the book. And tell us about your book that you wrote.
So the book's about a dog making his way home, and it's actually based off a true story, kind of. We had lost a dog out of our truck. We traveled a lot back and forth to our mining camp and our winter home, and we never did find him. So the story is about him coming home. And there's a lot of my life, my childhood, a lot of true stories in there, and it's pretty neat.
That is so cool to know somebody who wrote a book. Like, wow, that's so awesome. So check out in the description, guys, and get yourself that book. Like, wow, cool. I'm impressed. Amanda impresses me all the time. Like, she's just one of the coolest people I know. So before we wrap up, I want to say thank you to everybody for being here. If you guys found this information helpful or entertaining, if you could hit that like button, I sure do appreciate that. Share it on your favorite social media. And a huge thank you again to all of our members. We really appreciate all of our members. You guys help us keep doing all this. We will be back tomorrow. I haven't researched what the topic is about, but I do have them planned out. So, thank you, Amanda, for joining us.
Yep. Thank
And
you.
You're welcome. And thanks you guys all for watching. See you tomorrow, 6:30.